Is it that time of year already? You bet. It's already the holidays, and for today's story time, I'm going to be reading How the Grinch Stole Christmas by Dr. Seuss. Welcome, friends, to the Rolla Public Library. My name is Mr. Derek, and today I'm going to be reading to you How the Grinch Stole Christmas by Dr. Seuss. It's one of my favorites, and I hope you enjoy. This is a great book for the holiday season, as we're doing Thanksgiving and as we're getting ready for Christmas and the New Year. Every Who down in Whoville liked Christmas a lot. Do you like Christmas? But the Grinch, who lived just north of Whoville, did not. He looks like a sad person. The Grinch hated Christmas. The whole Christmas season. Now please don't ask why. No one quite knows the reason. It could be that his head wasn't screwed on just right. It could be, perhaps, that his shoes were on too tight. But I think that the most likely reason of all may have been that his heart was 2 sizes too small. But, whatever the reason, his heart or his shoes, he stood there on Christmas Eve hating the Whos, staring down from his cave with a sour, grinchy frown at the warm lighted windows below in their town, for he knew every Who down in Whoville beneath was busy now, hanging a mistletoe wreath. And they're hanging their stockings, he snarled with a sneet. Tomorrow is Christmas. It's practically here. Then he growled, with his Grinch fingers nervously drumming. I must find some way to stop Christmas from coming, for tomorrow he knew. Merry, merry. Look at all the fun things going on. Everybody's having a good time there. All the Who girls and boys would wake bright and early. They'd rush for their toys. And then, oh the noise. Oh the noise, 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 noise. That's one thing he hated. Noise, 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 noise. Do you hate noise? Do your parents hate noise? Then the Whos, young and old, would sit down to a feast, and they'd feast, and they'd feast, and they'd feast, and feast, and feast. That sounds like Thanksgiving, doesn't it? They would feast on Who pudding and the rare Who roast beef, which was something the Grinch couldn't stand in the least. Look at all that food. Looks like Thanksgiving to me. Who's excited about Thanksgiving food? And then they'd do something he'd like least of all. Every Who down in Whoville, the tall and the small, would stand close together with Christmas bells ringing. They'd stand hand in hand, and the Whos would start singing. They'd sing, and they'd sing, and they'd sing, sing, and sing some more. And the more the Grinch thought of this Who Christmas scene, the more the Grinch thought, I must stop this whole thing. Why, for 53 years I've put up with it now. I must stop it, this Christmas from coming. But how? Uh-oh, that does not look like a good face. That looks like an evil genius face. I wonder what he's going to do. Then he got an idea. An awful idea. The Grinch got a wonderful, awful idea. I know just what to do, the Grinch laughed in his throat. And he made quick Santa Claus hat and a coat. And he chuckled and clucked. What a great Grinchy trick. With this coat and this hat, I look just like Saint Nick. Kind of. He does kind of look like Santa Claus, doesn't he? A little bit. All I need is a reindeer. The Grinch looked around. But since reindeer are scarce, there were none to be found. Did that stop the Grinch? No, the Grinch simply said. If I can't find a reindeer, I'll make one instead. So he called his dog Max. Then he took some red thread, and he tied a big horn on the top of his head. Uh-oh, poor Max. He's the new reindeer. Then he loaded some bags and some old empty sacks on a ramshackle sleigh, and he hitched up old Max. Then the Grinch said, "Giddy up!" And the sleigh started down toward the homes where the Whos lay a snooze in their town. All their windows were dark. Quiet snow filled the air. All the Whos were all dreaming sweet dreams without care. When he came to the first little house on the square, "This is stop number 1, the old Grinchy Claus hissed. And he climbed to the roof, empty bags in his fist. Look at that. There's the Grinch looking evil trying to get inside the house. Oh, there he goes to the chimney just like Santa Claus. Then he slid down the chimney, a rather tight pinch. But if Santa could do it, then so could the Grinch. He got stuck only once, for a moment or two. Then he stuck his head out of the fireplace where the little Who stockings all hung in a row. "These stockings," he grinned, "are the first things to go." Then he slithered and slunk with a smile most unpleasant around the whole room, and he took every present. Pop guns and bicycles, roller skates and drums, checkerboards, tricycles, popcorn, and plums. And he stuffed them in bags. Then the Grinch very nimbly stuffed all the bags one by one up the chimney. Then he slunk to the ice box. He took the Who's feast. He took the Who pudding. He took the roast beef. He cleaned out that ice box as quick as a flash. Why, that Grinch even took their last can of Who hash. Then he stuffed all the food up the chimney with glee. "And now," grinned the Grinch, "I will stuff up the tree." He's gonna take the presents up the chimney instead of down the chimney. That's not a good Santa Claus, is it? And the Grinch grabbed the tree and he started to shove when he heard a small sound like the coo of a dove. He turned around fast and he saw a small Who. Little Cindy Lou Who was not more than 2. The Grinch had been caught by this tiny Who daughter, who'd got out of bed for a cup of cold water. She stared at the Grinch and said, "Santa Claus, why? Why are you taking our Christmas tree? Why?" Wonder what he's going to say. But you know, the old Grinch was so smart and so slick. He thought up a big lie, and he thought it up quick. "Why, my sweet little tot," the fake Santa Claus lied, "there's a light on this tree that won't light on one side. So I'm taking it home to my workshop, my dear. I'll fix it up there, then I'll bring it back here." And his fib fooled the child. Then he patted her head, and he got her a drink, and he sent her to bed. And when Cindy Lou Who went to bed with her cub, he went to the chimney and stuffed the tree up. Then the last thing he took was the log for their fire. Then he went up the chimney himself, the old liar. On their walls he left nothing but hooks and some wire. And the one speck of food that he left in the house was a crumb that was even too small for a mouse. Look at that. Look at that mouse over there. Then he did the same thing to the other Who's houses, leaving crumbs much too small for the other Who's mouses. It was 1/4 dawn, all the Who's still a snooze, when he packed up his sled. Packed it up with their presents, the ribbons, the wrappings, the tags, and the tinsel, the trimmings, the trappings. He rode with his load to the tip-top to dump it. "Pooh-pooh to the Who's," he said, grinchiously humming. "They're finding out that no Christmas is coming. They're just waking up. I know just what they'll do. Their mouths will hang open a minute or two. then the Who's down in Whoville will all cry boo-hoo. He's not very nice, is he? That's a noise, grinned the Grinch, that I simply must hear. So he paused, and the Grinch put his hand to his ear, and he did hear a sound rising over the snow. It started in low, then it started to grow. There's the Grinch. He thinks they're boo-hooing. What do you think they're going to do? But the sound wasn't sad. Why, this sound sounded merry. It couldn't be so, but it was. It was merry, very. He stared down at Whoville. The Grinch popped his eyes. Then he shook. What he saw was a shocking surprise. Look how shocked the Grinch is. Look at that. Wow, look at all the Who's together. Every Who down in Whoville, the tall and the small, was singing without any presents at all. He hadn't stopped Christmas from coming. It came. Somehow or other, it came just the same. And the Grinch, with his Grinch feet, ice cold in the snow, stood puzzling and puzzling. How could it be so? It came without ribbons. It came without tags. It came without packages, boxes, or bags. And he puzzled 3 hours till his puzzler was sore. Then the Grinch thought of something he hadn't thought of before. Maybe Christmas, he thought, doesn't come from a store. Maybe Christmas, perhaps, means a little bit more. Look at that. Maybe he wasn't able to steal as much as he thought. And what happened then? Well, in Whoville, they say that the Grinch's small heart grew 3 sizes that day. And the minute his heart didn't feel quite so tight, he whizzed his load through the bright morning light, and he brought back the toys and the food for the feast. And he, himself, the Grinch, carved the roast beef. Look at that. And he's participating in Christmas now with the Who's. Well, that was a great story, and I hope that you and your family and your friends experience Thanksgiving and Christmas and the holiday season with the cheer that the Who's experienced it with, and hopefully you also have plenty of presents and plenty of good things to go along with it. All of us here at the Royal Public Library love you, and we hope that you do well over the holiday season. Make sure that you come back on Thursdays from 10 to 11, where we have live story times, and also you can watch story times with Miss Tara, Miss Cynthia, and myself on Monday mornings when we do our virtual story times. Thank you so much for being here today, and have a great holiday season.